Hello, second graders. Today we're going to continue with lesson 2 for Unit 5, Module B. Our vocabulary for this lesson is the word bound. Bound means intending to go or going, so bound for home. And then the word typical. Typical means normal or usual. So something that you typically do on a Monday morning, right? You wake up, have breakfast, and then you get ready for school and do your schoolwork. So typical is something that happens regularly. Let's look at our objectives for this lesson. Our conventions objective is I will be able to use prepositional phrases, and our writing objective is I will be able to ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of key details in a text. Conventions mini lesson, use prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases have a preposition and the object of the preposition. It might tell when or where something happens. So here are some examples of prepositions. Prepositions are words that show relationships, such as a point in time to tell about direction or to show where something is. So here you can see all those different examples. For example, up, in, before, onto, during, from, since, inside, upon, and so forth. So if you look at this example, it says, the girl had an apple on her head. The word on would be the preposition. It's showing us where the apple is. Use prepositional phrases. In a ditch, the inspector noticed something glittering in the water. They got this name because the gold rush began in 1849. The preposition in begins two prepositional phrases that both explain where something happened. The preposition in also begins a prepositional phrase that explains when something happened. Then one day, John met a friend from home. The preposition from begins a prepositional phrase that explains where something happened or where the friend came from. People went to California in search of gold, were known as 49ers. The preposition to begins the prepositional phrase that tells where something happened, California. The other prepositional phrase is in search of gold, which includes two prepositions, in and of. Helping people travel to California was big business during the gold rush. The preposition to tells where something happened, and during tells when something happened. So in your online journal, you're going to go to lesson 2, okay, prepositional phrases. Underline the prepositional phrase in the sentence below. So on here, I'm going to underline it, but on your journal, you're going to type it in. Then write your own sentence that uses a prepositional phrase. So number 1, the inspector found gold at the mill. So I'll help you with this one to show you. Okay. Oops, let me make this a little bit smaller. The prepositional phrase, right? So my preposition is at, but the whole prepositional phrase would be at the sawmill because it tells me, right, where. Where did the inspector find gold? At the sawmill. Okay, so for number 2, I would like you to make up your own sentence. Remember, you can go back. You can look at all these different prepositions to use to help you. Okay, narrative writing, organize answers. So when a writer is collecting information to use when writing, he or she can use a planning chart to record and organize the answers to important questions. To understand the life of each pioneer child discussed in the book, the writer should ask and use the text to answer the questions who, what, when, where, and why. So in this chart, we're going to put our pioneer children, George Staples, John McWilliams, Laura Ingalls, and Ruth Chrisman. This will help keep our information organized. To complete the chart, the writer should ask and answer the following questions. Who is the subject of the narrative? What were some of the most important events in his or her life? When did these important events happen? Where did these important events take place? And why did each of these events happen? So sometimes you will have to use both what you read in a text and what you know to figure out why something happened. Once you have answered all of the questions and recorded all of the details in the chart, you can use the chart to organize your narrative writing. Let's look at our first example. As the oldest son in his family, he went to the United States to seek his fortune. Meanwhile, his parents raised the money for the rest of the family to follow. In 1848, George headed west from Illinois with a group of Mormon pioneers. That's found on page 7. So look, we can answer who is George Staples, what George headed west with the Mormons, when in 1848, where left Illinois and headed west, why to seek his fortune. By 1850, George's father, James, had arrived in Salt Lake. He heard stories from travelers who had seen a white boy living with the Sioux. Finally, a group of settlers went looking for George. When the young boy saw his father, he ran into his arms. From page 9. So who? George's father, James. What? A group of settlers searched for and found George. When? In 1850. Where? In Salt Lake. Why? James had heard stories that George may be living with the Sioux. So ask and answer questions in order to write a narrative. Remember that our essential question is, how do writers use details to describe characters and events? And the enduring understanding for this unit is, learners understand that people's journeys to settle in new places helped our country grow. So we will prepare to write a narrative that describes the life of a pioneer. We will use a planning chart to record details that answer questions about the real-life people and pioneers to the West. Remember that a planning chart helps a writer collect and organize important information that can be useful when writing. Okay, so if I was going to pick my person, okay, I might say that it would be John McWilliams. So in the Who chart, I would type his name, John McWilliams. And for this part, you can draw this chart at home or you can just use mine as an example. Okay, now the what is he decided to become a 49er and travel to California. Now, when was this? The year, looking at the text, is 1849. The where, I have to look at where he left. So he left Griggsville, Illinois, to go to California. And why? Why did John McWilliams leave? Like the rest of the 49ers at that time, they left to go find gold. To find gold. Okay, so we filled out this chart. So again, you can either use this, use mine, or you can make your own at home on a piece of paper. So for independent writing practice in your online writing journal, think about what you read in Pioneers to the West about the life of John McWilliams and the most important events that happened to him. How might the chart you worked on help you to write a narrative about John McWilliams? So in case you need a sentence starter for this, I will type it below. Okay, so the chart that we just made, right? So the chart I worked on may help me to write a narrative about John McWilliams by, and then you can tell me, right, how does the chart help organize those events and help keep it clear for the reader? Okay, I'm here if you have questions. Leave me any question on my Google Classroom. I'm also more than happy to do a Google chat if you would like to talk and do a lesson in person. I'm more than happy to do that. If not, remember you can always rewind the video, pause the video, and I'm here to help. Thank you.